On the Road with Kelly and Bob is brought to you by Mueller Metal Roofs and Buildings. Made in America, made to last. Coming up on this episode...
The reason I got involved in zydeco music is because it had a lot of soul in it. And I love soul music, always did. And I was always fascinated with the washboard.
Hi, we're Kelly
and Bob Phillips, and we're on the perpetual road trip of America's back roads,
where the journey is always the destination. Welcome to another edition of On the Road with Kelly and Bob. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Bob. If this is your first time joining us, well, what we do is as simple as it sounds. We travel all over America to every corner of every state and find what we consider to be compelling stories about people. Then we bring those stories back and share them with you.
Now, some of you ask us how we decide where to go. Well, usually we have some idea of the direction we're headed in, but depending on what we discover along the way, we really don't know when we'll get there.
Sometimes if we'll get there.
Exactly. And that's just what happened when we found ourselves somewhere in southwest Louisiana, where the sounds of music filled the air.
We are in Sunset, Louisiana, which is about 10 miles north of Lafayette, Louisiana. And Sunset is actually the rubboard capital of the world.
Rubboard.
Rubboard capital.
Like my mama used to do our shirts and stuff on?
Exactly.
You're doing laundry?
Well, you can. You can. You can use it for anything. You can use it for armor plate. You can use it to play music. You can use it to wash clothes. You know.
And
it doesn't matter. There's no limit to it. You know?
Why is this the washboard capital of the world?
Because of me.
Meet T. Don Landry, a bona fide Cajun and the sole reason some people call Sunset, Louisiana the washboard capital of the world. Now, unless you're of a certain age, and maybe even from a certain socioeconomic level, you probably have no idea what a washboard is.
You see, there was a time in the days before people had machines to wash their clothes when they rubbed their wet clothing on a washboard, a piece of rippled metal with a wooden frame around it. The washboard provided some friction to make it easier to get stains out of their clothes.
But in places like Louisiana, where people were innovative by necessity and turned things like crawdads, aka mudbugs, into a delicacy food item, the washboard took on a new purpose, that of a musical instrument.
They're actually a modern version of the old washboard. So I call them rubboards.
How did you get into making rubboards?
Well, it's a long story. It goes way back. My father was working, they were Cajun people that lived in Leroy, Louisiana, which is in Vermilion Parish. They didn't have any work back in the 40s, so a lot of the Cajuns migrated to Port Arthur, Texas. Mm-hmm. That's where I was born. And so he worked at the refineries. He was a welder and an iron worker. And Clifton Chenier, the king of zydeco, and his brother worked there too. So one day, Clifton asked my dad, he said, can you make me this? And he took a stick and he made a drawing of a rubboard on the sand and the dirt. He said, can you make me something like that? He said, yeah. He said, I can make anything you want. He said, I'm an art worker, you know. So he made, this is probably what it looked like back in the day, this antique piece of, that's a piece of roofing material that I got from a 100-year-old home.
In the early days of the washboard, or rubboard, as a musical instrument instead of a laundry utensil, musicians would attach a string to the board and hang it around their necks.
But when T. Don's daddy made that board for the musician he worked with at the refinery, he stripped off the wooden frame and added something new, a curved piece of metal on each side so the rubboard would hang over the user's shoulders, much more comfortable.
And that innovative idea became the preferred design for rubboards. Everybody wanted one. Even T. Don, who started out playing drums in a band, wanted to play the rubboard.
And when T. Don's daddy died, well, he knew he had to take up the mission of providing rubboards to the world.
And so I got a machine and I started. That was back in '95. And I've been doing it ever since.
Almost 30 years.
Yeah, I'll never forget to this day when I got my first order. It was a lady named Diane. I forget where she was from. I know I got it probably marked down somewhere. I was so freaking excited.
I
because
sold
before
one.
that, see, I was traveling playing zydeco music, playing the rubboard.
So how many rubboards do you think you've made since
Oh, I know
95?
exactly how many. Well, I know exactly how many since I started.
Okay.
And I can show you in my book over there. Over 5,000. The big ones, just the big ones. Not counting those little ones you see. I don't even
Right.
count those.
The big ones that are hanging up over
Big ones.
here.
Yeah.
And those are what, about 2.5 feet this way, or 2 feet?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Is there a difference in the way these different ones sound?
Yes.
And does it depend on the size and the shape and all that?
Yeah, I can show you.
Show me.
So.
Is that a certain key?
Key of Z.
Oh, Z.
Z.
The name
That's
of
the name. Yeah. So now we get into.
Oh.
See. So this is the thinner material, the 24. Now you're going to the 22 gauge stainless, which is a little bit thicker. Mm-hmm. The smaller the number, the thicker the material. Yeah. And right here, this is the Cadillac. This is the 20 gauge, which is the thickest and the heaviest.
Oh, you can really tell the difference.
Think the rubboard is such a specialty item that T-Don only sells a few here and there?
Well, that depends on what you call a few. T-Don says he's sold rubboards all over the world. Tell me this, you said you made, what, more than 5,000 of
Over
these
5,000 right now.
What are all those little flags on that map of the United
Well,
States behind you?
these flags, one day I just started thinking about it and I said, how cool would it be to get a map of United States and a map of Europe and start numbering them? Yeah, hey.
Do you have rubboards?
Yeah, I'm doing an interview right now.
Do you want to let them, are they coming to take a look at these?
Y'all can come
If
in.
you don't mind being on a radio show, come on in and take a look.
Where y'all from?
Montreal.
Montreal.
Just
Okay.
ignore us and
Come on in. This
talk to
happens.
them.
This happens often too.
People just show up.
That picture over there, that photograph.
Yeah.
That was some people from Belgium that came on a tour bus and parked in the front. I didn't know they were coming, and so they wanted to see my factory.
Here's the factory.
And we put them all in here. We were like sardines, man, and they were laughing. I'm T-Don.
T-Don.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Peter.
Nice to meet
And where are you folks from?
Montreal.
Montreal, Canada.
And how did you hear about the rubboard capital of the world
Well, we play zydeco music.
in Montreal?
Yes.
you. See, it's all over the world.
And he has a couple of T-Don's boards that he got shipped.
So I wanted to see the place where
The
it came
factory.
From.
The
Yeah,
factory.
exactly.
Hey, T-Don, you can ignore us. Y'all just talk French all day long. It's okay.
Je l'aime pas le français,
Ouais, c'est bon.
mais je parle pas comme d'habitude.
And the rest of the afternoon was spent in a whirlwind conversation about zydeco music and rubboards and different techniques T-Don taught his visitors about how the originators of this musical genre do this and that.
It was a delightful time spent between a group of strangers who are separated by borders, but brought together by this magical music.
I told my bandmates a bunch of times, I said, it's going to come to where I think the zydeco music is going to overtake the Cajun music. And it's happening now. I mean, Cajun music is still popular, but it's not as popular as zydeco at a festival and clubs. It's packed. The young people are.
And they
And they
dance.
like the dancing, man. The zydeco dancing.
You never know on any of these stories that we do who might just drop by and show up and end up on radio and podcast. We never know where we're going either. One of the things about T-Don is this guy is really, really interesting. He's one of those that we could talk to forever. We did get a chance to sit and talk with him a lot more about what he does for a living, about Cajun music and zydeco music, and let's just listen to some more of that.
Why did you get involved in zydeco music?
The reason I got involved in zydeco music is because it had a lot of soul in it. I love soul music, always did. And I was always fascinated with the washboard. Since I was a little kid, Clifton and Cleveland, they had a show on our local TV station, Channel 10, KLFY. It was called the Bon Temps Roulé Show every Saturday morning.
And you were glued to
And
the
I would
TV.
watch Cleveland. He was the master. He was the rubboard master because he played different than anybody. And they didn't have a lot of rubboard players in those days. You know what I mean? Zydeco bands. And I'm a drummer, so then I'd just sit down in front of that TV and I was hypnotized. Okay, so then where I was raised, the neighborhood I was raised in, across the highway, they had a club called the Bon Temps Roulé Club. And he would play there almost every Sunday. Well, I could hear it from my house. And I'd get on my bike and I would ride and I would park across the street on my bike. And
How old were
I'd just, 10, 11, 12, 13. You see, I was playing drums.
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't pick up the rubboard till I was in my early 30s.
Is it more of a percussion instrument?
Oh, yeah.
So it was a natural for you to go
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
drums to rubboard.
Yeah. But it's not as easy to play it as some people think. When I was playing, festivals and clubs all over the world, all over the country and the world, you always had the one guy or girl in the crowd that had a few too many. And I can play that.
Oh, I can do
I can
that.
do-
Famous
I can-
last words.
I can do that. And just so happens when they would do that, man, I need a break. I need to go to the bathroom or go get me a cold beer. So I'd say,
Come on!
boy, man, that makes their day. So you come up and I put it on them and I give them the things and they look at me like a deer in the headlights. They have no idea what to do and they want to give it back. No.
What does the rubboard do? What does it add to zydeco music?
Well, I tell people that without the rubboard, it's not a zydeco band. That's how it started.
And what would you call it if you had all the same stuff without the rubboard? Just Cajun music?
Well, it would be accordion music, I would call it. See, like the Cajun bands, they really don't use the rubboard. The accordion and the rubboard is where it started because the accordion had the melody and everything, and then the rubboard had the percussion. And then they added the drums, then the guitar, then the bass, then the keyboard.
Is it getting bigger and more popular?
Oh yeah, definitely more popular.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the younger zydeco musicians or ramping it up. They're putting rap in it, which
That's different.
to try to get it mainstream, you have to do that.
Sure.
And they're young, they're 19, 20 years old. I mean, and so it's drawing the young crowd
So it's keeping zydeco alive.
alive.
Rattle off a couple of the names that people would recognize that you've done rubboards for.
Well, as you can see back here, up there, you see Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top. I made several for him, and the latest one was Miranda Lambert, Kid Rock, Billy Nungesser. The Lieutenant Governor came over here with his entourage one day to buy one. Lyle Lovett, Wynton Marcello's percussionist up at the Kennedy Center in New York City. Whew. And probably a lot of people that I don't even know that people buy.
Are you comfortable having people call you Mr. Rubboard?
Yeah, I mean,
Because they do. A lot of people, he's Mr.
Hey,
Rubboard.
Rubboard, man, look, I'll show y'all something. Cleveland Chenier was my idol, okay? He was the master on the rubboard. But he was a big man. He used to put 6 on each hand.
Oh my gosh.
So how long do you think you'll make rubboards?
Until I die.
It's that important.
Yep.
What's going to
Till
happen?
I can't do it anymore.
What's going to happen when you can't make them anymore?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I got some grandkids. Of course, they're all working. I mean, they don't, you got to have, it's in my heart. It was meant to be. It was meant, this was what I'm supposed to do.
I spent a lot of time in Southeast Texas where zydeco is pretty big. And one of the things that I noticed about zydeco music is people always wanted to get up and dance, and it was a party all the time.
It's one of those sounds that it makes you smile. You can't listen to it and not smile, and people laugh, and it makes you feel good.
You're always tapping your feet. And you can listen to On the Road with Kelly and Bob anywhere you get your podcast, or just download the free Odyssey app. Listen anytime, anywhere.